There we go. That one says it's going live. That one says it's going live. Let's see if they actually do this time. All right. There we go. Broadcast began over there. And what do we got going over here on the tubes? There we go. That one is looking pretty good, I think. There we go. Excellent. All right. Rockfin, what about you? There we go. Go live button. Kaboom. All right. I think we might be onto something here, folks. Now we'll just get the recordings going again. I think we're golden. Just double check this one. Boom. There it is. All right. We got a countdown going over there. All right. I think we might have actually accomplished it this time. MindSpace, would you mute your mic, please? And yeah, let's try again.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Ladies, gentlemen, friends, foes, lurkers, regulars, GMO people, organic people.
Pharaoh, inbound. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Boiler Room. This is May the 5th of 2022, and I want to thank you for joining us. We're streaming live at alternatecurrentradio.com, Spreaker.com, YouTube, and Rockfin. We're out there on all those tonight, simulcasting to all those networks. Got a good multi-stream going here. I'm your host. My name is Brian, but everybody calls me Hesher around here. That was the internet call sign that stuck, and you're stuck with me, and you're stuck with it as I am. So welcome to the show. Great to see everybody. Interesting week here. Yeah, thanks everybody for your patience getting started tonight. I had a mulligan that one. I'm still getting used to my live streaming rig here, so apologies to anyone that was hitting those links that originally went out. Those should have worked. I'm sure that was a dumb thumb moment on my part here. It looks like the what do you call it? The latency between my live stream and Rockfin is a lot longer than I expected it is, and yeah, that may have been what happened there. It seems like Rockfin is not started when it's just buffering all this beautiful 1080p HD stream that you got here in the boiler room. I'll give you guys a little peek into the green room there. There's everybody in the green room. Boom, look at them. They're all ready to rock and roll. I told these guys 8 p.m. Central sharp tonight, and here it is 9 p.m. Central. So my deepest apologies to my crew here tonight as well. Anyways, let's just go ahead and get right to it. No long rants or philosophies this time. Let's just get to it. Let's see who's in the boiler room tonight. All right, let's welcome MindSpaceArt first of all. MindSpace is the creator and host of a podcast called Soul Purpose, which you can find over here at alternatecurrentradio.com. MindSpace, welcome back to the Boiler Room. Thanks for your patience tonight, man.
Of course, I have all the patience in the world when it comes to the Boiler Room, because I know that when we do get down to business, we tell it how it really is. So I'm glad to be here. Let's come in swinging for this show.
All right. Yes. Thanks for joining us. All right. Up next, we've got the man behind the daily, Ruckus. His call sign is Ruckus. Adam, what's up? Welcome to the Boiler Room, my friend.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Coming in all right there?
Yeah. Looking and sounding good.
Great, man. We just do these helicopter landings and we don't do any mic checks or nothing, dude. We're blessed.
Right? It's amazing.
Because we got to get the message out, people, and that's what we're going to do. So let's do it.
All right. Welcome to the Boiler Room, Ruckus. Up next, we've got the creator, producer, host, and man behind the wonderful Oddcast. His name is the Oddman out. Oddman, welcome back to the Boiler Room. How you doing tonight?
What's up, my friend? I can't wait to hang out with you guys and talk about the insane world that we live in.
Oh my gosh, it is so insane, man. It is so insane. Yeah, we're going to get into it. I don't even know how much insanity I can plug into one day. I started filling out my notes, dude, and it was just like, I think who was that? Is that was that Craig Kilborn that would like have his guest come out and then he would just, immediately like tear up all his notes and toss them behind himself and start mercilessly flirting with her if it was a good looking gal, or start mercilessly joking if it was a dude.
Yeah, he was highly underrated. I thought he was pretty good at that.
I agree. He had great technique. All right. Well, thanks for being here tonight, man. Looking forward to getting into it.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. And we've got the one and the only Infidel Pharaoh joining us also in the Boiler Room tonight. Infidel Pharaoh, our resident scientist here. Infidel, welcome back to the Boiler Room. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here. It's insane world. I like actually Alex Cristofaro from the Duran. He has a section called Clown World. It's really interesting. It feels like Clown World, really.
Yes. I'll have some good examples of that tonight for you guys. Hopefully, we'll see what happens here. All right. Well, it's great to have you. So that's your room for tonight, everybody. We may have a couple more combat landings come through. I gotta let the Chewini into his bed. Hold on, I gotta live produce a Chewini. Also, stand by.
When you got to let a Chewini out, you got to let them out because they get vicious.
That's right. Yeah, seriously, that is a showstopper right there. I mean, if I didn't take care of that, all of a sudden there would be a lot of noise coming into the studio because my Chewini is one of my two security chiefs around here, and they do not stand for things that don't go the right way. So, alternate current radio Chewini, security chief is he's in his sniper den, so he's all set up. He's ready to rock and roll. He's locked and loaded, and we should be good to go here. As long as the thunder and lightning doesn't come back. We had a lot of thunder and lightning today. We had internet get shut off several times. I had to have the entire studio powered down for large parts of the day today, just because there was so much electricity going on in the sky. Shout out to all my Texas listeners out there. Hope everybody's cool. Hope nobody had giant hail balls crash through the roof of their house or their car or anything. That always sucks. If you heard my show on, I guest hosted for Mark Anderson on Stop the Presses. I guess that was yesterday. Such a blur. And I was talking about that. We actually we sprung a leak in alternate current radio last time we had that kind of hail. So I think some of my more northern Texans are writing me today and asking me, studio all right, house okay? And it's like, yeah, it's all right. It wasn't as bad as last time, but I hear some of those people up a little bit north of me got some pretty crazy hail. Saw that storm come in. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. But yeah, all right. Well, hey, yeah, we're all good here, and it's quiet finally. The internet is stabilized, I hope, and hopefully that is the end of that. And in Spore's absence here, guys, we're gonna have to come up with an icebreaker. So what do we got? All right. This one's actually I'll give Chuck a shout out here because this one is going down in his home state. It is the hold on, I'll put it on the screen for everybody. Actually, let me go ahead and move this over here, blow that up, and switch you over to that one. There you go. Oh, that doesn't do any good because my StreamYard's over there. Boy, oh boy, this is great. What a fun time we're having tonight. A lot of tech stuff going on. There we go. And then I can solo that. Boom. All right. Drivers, James Bond device fails to evade New Jersey toll. Now, this one is a little bit near and dear to my heart because I don't know. We didn't really have these. I guess we had. It wasn't like we didn't have toll things going on in California, but the toll roads here in Texas are weird. Like the whole road system here in Texas is weird to me as someone that came from California. And what really bizarres me out, to coin a really poor English term there, is that as an American, I'm supposed to have a constitutional right to be free to travel, right? Yet there are some roads that I am not free to travel without paying tolls on. And it's just so strange to me. It's like, wait, so I'm really not free to travel this road at all. And a lot of them, they use these camera systems, right? They use camera systems to take a picture of your license plate on the way through, and then they send you a bill. And here in Texas, they're really terrible at that billing process. The billing process is just awful. But yeah, out here, so I can understand why somebody might want to try to buck it. First of all, drivers, they're calling this driver's James Bond device fails to evade New Jersey toll. So the Port Authority police say they caught a driver trying to avoid paying a toll at the Holland Tunnel. And they say James Bond would approve. Law enforcement says Nicholas Seegers, 31 of North Bergen, shout out to that rebel rouser there, used a spy device that lowered a black covering over his rear license plate at the press of a button. So he was driving a Dodge Durango through the cashless lanes at the Holland Tunnel on a particular Friday morning here. I'm not sure how old this article is. And they have a machine that snaps a photo of your front and rear license plates. And then in this case, there was no front plate. So and then the bill is, sent to the registered owner via mail. But this failed, you guys. This totally failed on him. Didn't go his way. He I guess he got caught. So bummer. That failed on homie there. So how did it fail? Well, the Port Authority officers could see what happened, and he was pulled over, arrested, and cited with tampering with public records, theft of services, and possession of burglary tools. So yeah, didn't really work out very well there for Sean. I don't know. I can see why someone might want to do that, though. It totally makes sense to me. But I guess this is a cautionary tale because they pulled him right over and they arrested his ass. So it wasn't like they just wrote the dude a ticket. They actually arrested his ass. And what a theft of services. Okay, let's think about that for a minute. Tampering with public records. Okay, that sort of makes sense. I guess you're creating a public record by driving through the thing. Theft of services. All right, maybe we'll circle back to that. And possession of burglary tools. So that one, it was a little bit surprising to me. And then they've got bills floated through to even raise the fines for this sort of thing to $750, and even double it if another crime is committed subsequently after obscuring their driver's their license plate as they go over bridge there. So I'm gonna go in reverse here. I'm gonna go to Oddman first. Oddman, do you guys have these kind of toll highways and stuff out there in Tennessee? Like we have these ones, like when I need to go to the airport, there's one road I can take that doesn't really have that, but the fast way to get there has that. It's like they set you up and all your GPSs are going to say, go this way, but it's the toll road and you're going to go through 4 or 5 toll thingies. They'll snap the picture and then they will maybe send you 3 different bills at 3 different times from a couple of different providers. And, you know, if you don't pay them on time, it like doubles and then exponentially triples. Like it's really rude what they do. But do you guys have those there? And what do you think about this?
No, we actually don't have toll roads here. There might be maybe in places like Memphis, but I know there's not any in Nashville or Chattanooga or Knoxville. I've been to places in South Carolina that had toll roads and places in Florida as well. And it's the exact same, you know, it's like the easy way you have to pay the toll or go around the long way that's got 100 red lights or whatever. I think it's BS, man. It's total BS. And I was going to ask, do you know if you have to pay like the taxes that you pay go towards the roads plus the toll fees? What do the toll fees go for? I wonder.
I wonder that too, you know, because there's some projects, bridges and you know, extra highways and stuff where they say, oh, we're going to put this up and we're going to pay for it with its own tolls. But that should mean there's a finite like period of time in which the tolls should be on, if that's a year or 5 years or whatever. But it doesn't feel like that's the way these things work, does it?
It never goes away. It's like a toll forever. And yeah, that's total BS, man. And most of these places are not very good stewards of the people's money anyway. So you have to think about it like that. I know, I'll say quickly, a few years ago when they started having the red light cameras here, we're going back maybe 10 years ago, it was a pretty big deal and people hated it. And a local guy who actually went to school with my wife, he was one of the local politicians here. I forget which district, but he really took this on himself and he proved that it was unconstitutional. And so legally here at least in my county and city, they cannot fine you. Like if they fine you and you don't pay it, they can't do anything for red light cameras. So it makes me wonder if there's some laws, if the right people looked into it, they could, you know, kind of do something about this.
Interesting. That's great. That's good news. It's good to hear that it's not this way everywhere. Infidel, you're in the same state. What about you, man? What's your experience there?
I was just gonna say it's funny, Oddman. Do you know that the new blue license plates in Tennessee now that they are rolling out? It's actually the cameras does not work with it because it reflects the light reflects from those plates, so they cannot actually capture the plate number.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if they will roll back those plates or what's going to happen, but those cameras do not work with those plates right now.
That's good to hear. We have, you know, 2 cars and one has the new ones and the other one has the old plate.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's a continuation of that government, and you keep paying money, and where does our money go? I always think about like, where does my tax money go? Where does my property tax go? Where are those tolls go? I guess they go to Ukraine now, or go to wherever they want to pay it for, but definitely not me. Or I don't get any benefits out of it. So I would like to thank the American government for taking my money and wasting it.
Yeah, why if our society was fair at all, we would be able to audit that kind of stuff. You know, think how cool that would be if you could like pay your taxes for the year, which by the way are just so rapey, so rapey. If you really look into taxing and licensing, I've read it on the show before, like a list of things that you have to have a license and or a tax to do. It's like all things human. You know what I mean? It's an exhaustive list. I'm not even going to try to summon it out of the back of my brainstem tonight. It's just like when you really start looking at your the percentage of whatever you can wrestle out of whatever fiat you can wrestle out of the matrix, as our friend the Silver Surfer once said, I believe. The percentage of that goes to taxing, licensing fees, and all kind of other like similar things that you just wouldn't be able to, like, you know, fishing, driving, blah blah blah, you know, you name it, hunting, just the basics, the very basics. Just imagine, Ruckus, if you could like go to a blockchain sort of web 3.0 interface and say, all right, they told me I needed to pay 38% of my net income this year. You know, and maybe you could even have like little click boxes so you could kind of like take off some of the things that you're totally stoked to have paid for, you know. So if you're totally stoked to have paid for you know, minimum wage increase in your state or whatever, you know, but you want to see what happened, where your money went to on the road or whatever. Like, wouldn't that be neat? Wouldn't that change a lot, you think?
You're saying you're asking for transparency?
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
Dare you? What are you thinking? It's never been done that way before. There's never been any attempt to do. Why would they do that? I mean, if they wanted to do that, or if that was a good thing, they would have done that by now, don't you think?
We have the technology, right? I mean, we should be able to do that. Look at all the crazy complicated things that we've been able to figure out. We as a society, a world, have been able to figure out by this point in the 21st century. Like, it shouldn't be that hard, right? Look at all the transactions that are like decentralized and just happening, like, you know, by the seconds in the blockchains right now.
Well, we would find out that currently most of it goes to a country that starts with the letter U. Anyways, here's something we can accomplish too. I was just as befuddled as you are about this burglars tools charge.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
So I had to look this up, folks, because I'm like, what? So the New Jersey Code, Title 2C, New Jersey Code of Criminal Justice, Section 2C 5-5, burglars tools. Basically, this is any person who manufactures or possesses any engine, machine, tool, or implement adapted, designed, or commonly used for committing or facilitating any offense in Chapter 20. So keep in mind, this is called burglars tools. So I had to go look up Chapter 20 to see, well, how does this fall into place? And I think I found the one is because you said that there was theft of services, correct?
Yes.
There it is. It's right there. Section 2C-20-8, theft of services. So the fact that he used this device is the burglar's tools by definition. So
To steal
I learned
services
something today.
So
Because otherwise, I thought maybe they just didn't like this guy, or I was like, is this going to turn into a bigger deal? They didn't make no mention. It's interesting. You notice, folks, when they report on most crimes, they don't just bring up at random, oh, by the way, he was a XYZ colored guy, or he was wearing a thing on his head, or he had this particular belief. No, all we got was this guy's name, which you got wrong, by the way. His name is Sean Nicholas. He's got two first names, I think. I thought immediately of Sean Connery. He's Sean Nicholas. You know? So yeah, but I'm like, okay, I thought for a second maybe the cops are trying to pull this thing where, like, yeah, you had a busted taillight, or hey, we found this little baggie on the floor of your car, by saying, hey, you have a screwdriver, you got a crowbar in the trunk, a tire iron, burglar's tools, obviously. Book them, Dano. Yeah, I thought maybe they just didn't like the guy and they were just trying to throw the book at him and make an example out of him. But no, apparently they're just trying to make money and throw as many charges as possible, fine him, make a little bit of an example out of him. But again, notice they made no reference to any descriptor about the would-be criminal suspect, but They do that in other instances sometimes, don't
Mhm.
they? Rather proudly and loudly, don't they?
Oh yeah, they love to do that sometimes. Okay, so let me ask you this then, Ruckus. Does that Are we to then take from this that anyone who does this in New Jersey, at least, is going to get all three of those charges? Those are the standard three charges because one begets the other, right? For that whole system to work.
Yeah, I imagine that law enforcement agencies do this all the time. They're probably just scraping the barrel, to be honest with you. So yeah, they would do this with as many people as possible. They were probably trying their hardest to come up with as many charges for him as they could. So,
And
what's
and
the
the article,
ultimate? What's the ultimate deal? What's it going to be? He pays a fine. I mean, or did they say they sent him to prison?
well, that's the thing. So it looks like it's all fines, but he was arrested. I mean, I'm sure they must have just let him go or whatever. But the part that gets me is it says there's a says this happens. It says, does this happen? Yeah, it happens often enough for Assemblywoman Carol Murphy to draft a bill to raise fines for using such toll evading technology to $750. And the legislation also says fines will double if such a device were used in the commission of another crime. So again, if all three of those charges go together, like every time you're going to get all three of those, everybody gets all three of those. Does that count as the commission of the other crime? Like the
Right. No,
burglary
you
the
could
other crime?
throw in one extra one and say, hey, we're going to create a new law, folks, where it's against the law to break the law. Now you're guilty of 4 things. How about that? What do you think?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
It makes perfect sense, right? It's just like so circular. Yet another self-licking ice cream cone here. Let's see here. Chopper's weighing in from remote. He says they always pile up as many charges as possible. Doesn't matter if they stick or not. Yeah. I see. I can see how that works. It's like they're built systemically into the way this thing is defined. All right. So MindSpace, let me get your input on this. So they say they've got people having this happen all the time. So they had others in the past. They've had a trucker who had a cable rigged into his cab that pulled up the front license plate out of the camera's view, and the back plate bent just enough to give not a clear picture. They had a driver of a Mazda using 20 fake plates to escape paying. I guess this guy just swapped plates every time. They had a trucker on the George Washington Bridge who smeared grease all over his plate. So there you go. There's all kinds of people doing this, I guess, and all kinds of methods. I guess this is a bit of a PSA, or maybe some of these people are just like, you know what? This is bullcrap. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, well, the state wants to come in this situation and act like they're Gandalf saying, "You shall not pass." But that's not really what it is. They're actually the Eye of Sauron, and this is the consequence for you evading the gaze. So that's really what we get here. And it's an interesting usage of the terminology burglary tools. What are the burglary tools here? Might they be all of the cameras and the apparatus that's there on the highway that people are, having to drive through, getting all of their data logged? I mean, this is something that's obviously going to expand. I mean, in the past, what's the archetype is like a highwayman, right? Isn't that the idea? Like, this is somebody who could rob you on the highway. They're going to shake you down for some funds, for some bills. They want your shekels. So the question is, who is the real highwayman in this situation? Is it the guy who put the cover over the license plate, or is it that whole apparatus that's there? Imagine if the highway robbers were given the kinds of technology that we have today. It's no different, or at least we should ask the question. I'm not saying that it's necessarily good guys and bad guys here, but we have to look at the broader context and question, if this stuff, if we want to see it proceed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who's really stealing from who here? Or should I have thrown a whom in there? I'm sorry. exactly. Who is getting ripped off here? Who's getting burgled from? And this is interesting. So this came out of New Jersey 1015. Show host Jeff Domensky did this opinion piece. So shout out to him, and I'll read his final statement on this, and we're going to work our way into a video premiere in a minute here. Thanks, Ruckus. He says, while I can't condone spy gear for evading tolls, I would say the toll authorities have certainly used their own sleight of hand with perpetual debt and bondholder excuses to get out of the original agreement to take down tolls from the Parkway and Turnpike once the roads were paid for. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's all I'm saying. I think that the citizens of this country have been so skull plugged about the whole like my roads, right? Oh, my roads. Of course, I'll pay all the taxes. My roads. And what do? Like apparently they didn't need your taxes for your roads because they just printed more money when they needed to lock you in your house. They just printed more money when they needed to make sure that Pfizer made like $4 billion extra and told you that all this stuff they wanted you to go get was free. Don't worry, it's free. Yet somehow the company that made it made all this money, right? So I don't know. Liars. They are liars. They're straight up liars. So anyway, my point is I think that most of us in this country are sort of conditioned and maybe even willing to say, yeah, my roads are important. No one wants to see their friends and family or themselves get injured or hurt on the roads, right? And we want to see them maintained properly, right? So, okay, taxes. All right. Well, again, I wish there was some way to audit. I wish there was some way for us to know where all that money went. Where did all this money come from that's going outside the country? We got billions going to Israel. We got billions going to Ukraine. We got billions going to Saudi Arabia, all of whom are committing human atrocities right now with some of that money and some of that. We're even paying salaries for people in those countries. It's amazing. We lock people home here for almost 2 years and then say, oh, hey, we're going to start paying people's salaries in a country that most of you can't find on a map, by the way. But anyway, back to my point. I think most of us would have been fine to pay for whatever it takes for that upgrade. If there was some accountability and we were able to say, okay, that bridge has now been paid for. That took 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And now it's our bridge, right? That should be our bridge now. We've got about 2 minutes if anyone else wants to jump in there and put a final bow on this one. It's more like putting lipstick on a pig than a bow on anything.
Yeah, I was trying to think of this quote, Hesh. It's like about bureaucracy, and it's so good. I know I'm going to screw it up, but it's something like bureaucracy gives birth to itself and then expects benefits or something like that. But it's just like it's set up to grow and continue to grow forever. And it's like a cancer, it just grows until it just destroys
Right. We call that
everything.
metastasizing.
Yes. Yeah.
And do you mind if I just throw in on this video premiere that we got rolling here in just a moment?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, we got this rolling at the YouTube. We got a premiere. I promised that we would release a special video if people threw in for the donation drive. And people have really chipped in and been helpful. And we still encourage people to throw in for the donations. But this one came from my heart, and it's a little entertainment here. So, we're going to deep dive with this video. And we hope here at Alternate Current Radio that it leaves you in rapture. So appreciate everybody coming here tonight. And we'll see you on the other side of the video premiere.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we go, everybody. We got a video premiere about to happen. This is up on our YouTube channel. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and unmute it. You guys smoke them if you got them. It's break time.
am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture.
On the surface, the farmer tills the soil, training the strength of his arm for a hole and lands his own. But the parasites say no. What was yours is ours. We are state. We are God. We demand our share. The parasite makes nothing for itself. His only tools are taxes and tithes, and to trick you with offering it has not earned. In rapture, we keep what is ours. On the surface, the scientist invests the power of his mind in a single miraculous idea and naturally begins to rise above his fellows. But the parasites say no. Discovery must be regulated, it must be controlled, and finally surrender. An artist strives to frame his ideals in an image, to challenge his audience, to make his vision immortal. But the parasites say, no, your art must serve the cause. Your ideals endanger the people. Lacking its own ingenuity, the parasite fears the visionary. For it cannot plagiarize, it seeks to censor. For it cannot regulate, it seeks to ban. Rapture was founded on an idea, and here they are held inviolate. On the surface, your parents sought a private life, using their great talents to provide. They learned to twist the lies church and government, believing themselves masters of the system. But the parasites said, no, the child has a duty. He'll go to war and die for the nation, unable to provide for itself. The need of the parasite grows until war is made to justify. Your parents brought you to rapture, where you need never fear the parasites again. So you see, there is no place for you on the surface, but remembering the world to you. If you know someone who belongs in rapture, write a letter to the Ryan Industries mailroom, and you'll never know. The next new face might be
The assassin has overcome my final defense, and now he's come to murder. In the end, what separates a man from a slave? Money? Power? No. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Stop, would you kindly? Would you kindly? Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Sit. Stand. Would you kindly? Run. Stop. Tell me. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Kill! A man chooses. A slave obeys. Obey!
Stand by, folks. We'll be right back with you. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Boiler Room. How's everybody doing out there? Yes, you are listening to Alternate Current Radio tonight. We got a Boiler Room happening here. You got me. I'm your host, Hesher. We got MindSpaceArt. We got Ruckus. We got the Oddman out, and we got Infidel Pharaoh. And yeah, welcome back. Welcome back. Second, here we go. Second segment of the show. I think we're good on all the platforms. Thanks, everybody. Good to see some familiar faces out there in the chat room, some familiar handles and names. Great to see everybody over there. Let's see here. We're going to get back into it. Did I tell you this is the May the 5th show, 2022, if you're just joining us, and we're live on Rockfin, Alternate Current Radio, Spreaker.com, and YouTube. Shout out to everybody on the Rockfin, and thanks everybody that has thrown in and helped out with the Shillin' for Sanity Alternate Current Radio Spring Donation Drive. We are making a little bit of headway there. And that video piece that we just aired there, that was a little something special that we've been holding back for a while. Wanted to wait for the right time. And you can find that on our YouTube channel. And you'll be able to find a enhanced version of it to kind of riff off of how Ruckus is working stuff over there. Maybe a enhanced version of it on the Alternate Current Radio website coming up soon here. And let's see here. We'll just welcome Mindspace back on for a moment. Mindspace, that was great. Great edit on that video. I hope everybody gets out there and checks it out, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. I'm thankful for anybody who stayed to listen and watch. Bioshock has been a cultural phenomenon. It's really captivated the imagination of a lot of people. And so, I guess Netflix ostensibly is trying to make a Bioshock film or something like this, but I thought, with what tools and footage I have at my disposal, why don't I give it a shot to try to bring that world to life? And so that's what I tried to do with that piece there. And I hope that I, caught a thread on something that sparks the imagination for people out there. These pop culture phenomenons, they really resonate with a lot of people. And I think that, we should understand why. We should try to peer a little bit further into what these stories are all about. And the story arc of Bioshock is kind of legendary. And the character there who is speaking, Andrew Ryan, is sort of an interesting character and sort of, I guess, a megalomaniac type of utopian who obviously meets an end, but the way in which that happens is a twist and a turn for the player in the video game. And the question really does come down to it as, the player is the demise of Andrew Ryan. That the question is, has the player chosen, or has he been led down the path by a series of persuasive phrases and pointers? And I mean, I think that this is something that's really pertinent to our times, because it's, would you kindly do this? Would you kindly do that? Would you kindly wear a mask, sir? Would you kindly socially distance? Would you kindly stop visiting your family? Would you kindly put this syringe in somebody? So I think that there's a philosophical depth there to plumb, and I just tried to bring a piece of it to life, and I hope I did justice to the series and that story.
I would say so. It's one of my all-time favorite character and story-driven first-person sort of experiences in many years of gaming. I even took 8 years off of gaming, and I'm not sure I missed anything in those 8 years that was as good as the Bioshock series. I may have come out of retirement at one point to play the third installment, which happened very fast, but I enjoyed it very much. But you're right, man. And one of the things that we're always trying to keep our eye on, and trying to make sure that especially our new listeners and viewers keep their eye on, is taking back the narrative and not allowing narratives to pull you around by your nose and push you around by the back of your face, and you know, or like you said, lock you in your house, or change the way you school your children, or disallow you from being with your loved ones as they enter or leave this world. I mean, that's really what the narrative has done to us. It's much worse than the roads, my taxes and my roads. It's much, much, much more twisted. So yeah, that's I loved it. It was great. Thank you very much for that, and thanks everybody out there that's been supportive during our spring shilling for sanity donation drive. We are shilling for that sanity that our listeners and viewers write us and tell us that we help maintain for them as we navigate our way through so many of these bullcrap narratives. I'll open it up if anyone else wants to throw anything out there.
Yeah, MindSpace, would you so kindly stop brainwashing the audience with all of this?
Sorry.
For fans of the game, they understand what you're saying, but they probably understand deeper what you're doing. Man, that's not cool. Not cool at all, bro. But seriously, well, you said something there that was like pretty profound, briefly, and I'm not sure if, well, you always say things that are profound, but I think a lot about this concept about what it is that's leading us towards whatever, and the things that influence us in our lives. And clearly, you have the obvious choices and answers, like the people in your life. If you have like a close, knit circle of friends and family or whatever, they're heavily influenced on your life. So is your work and your work colleagues and all of that stuff. But then you got the social media, you got the news, you got the politicians, you got your religion and all of that stuff. But one thing that I think is really, really going on hidden behind the scenes, and most people don't realize it, and I think this has been going on for, I don't know, at least since probably around like the 2012, remember, like the end of the world time. I think the algorithms in our lives, because we're so addicted and attached to technology and the internet, I believe that all of these things, including the things that I mentioned before, tie into these algorithms and these computer programs. And a lot of these things were led along subconsciously by the computer, the machine, this invisible entity, this great unknown, like the Google God or whatever. And it's just this wild theory I have, but I don't know. There's been so many instances. Maybe this has happened to you. We're all familiar with the idea where we search for something and we're like, okay, I need clean underwear, and I want to buy some new underwear. And then you get busy and you go off and do whatever. And then you open up your email or you check your phone and there's an ad for Hanes underwear. It's because, the Googles are spying on you and selling your information to the advertisers. Well, I think it goes a little bit other ways. If you go out there online and you want to search for, like, say, Ukraine, and you want to get the news about Ukraine, I think that the computer, call me crazy, the algorithms feed you results different than your next door neighbor gets. And I bet you could even prove that if you wanted to. I have. So I wondered why that is. And I always thought, it's just because, they want you to be in control. If they wanted to control everybody and have everybody on the same message, everybody would get served the same slop. There wouldn't be such this great variety that we're tricked into believing is feeding us out based on our interests. What if they are telling us what our interests are? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I never thought I was going to be a podcaster. When I started listening to a particular podcaster many, many years ago, before all of this began, before I became Ruckus, I was just like you, the listener, just listening to a podcast, right? I never thought I would be doing one. But there were instances that happened in my life, and including things that I was doing online, that led me kind of down that path. And next thing you know, I just thought, well, hey, I could do this. But I think there were seeds and things that were planted in my life that led me that way. I'm absolutely grateful for that. but it astounds me when I go back and think about that stuff. And I just wonder what that means in general for the entire world, for society, if each of us have been taken over and are led on a leash by some computer algorithm somewhere based on our interests. And you have to ask yourself, are those really your own, or were those implanted? Would you kindly ask yourself that question?
Right, right. And I think it's a pretty complicated answer because it's been, especially for those of us in this Gen X age group, for 3 out of 4 out of 5 of us here tonight, um, because it happened with us. You know what I mean? We were growing as it was being inserted into our lives, and like we were online, most of us on the call, like before, when algorithms were they did very utilitarian things, right? Like the algorithms in 1997, when I was building, or when was that? 1995 or 6, when I was building my first computer. The algorithms were about like input output stacks and machine language and network protocols, loading software to drivers to software, etc. It was very just utilitarian. But then as we grew, it was like, oh, okay, things started to, I remember the first time I understood what metadata was. It was like, oh, because I would sit and stare at album covers, forever. I would study album covers, and it's like, okay, I know who produced that album. I know what year it came out. I know, I even remember half the people they had in their thank you list. Like I spent that much time with an album. I could like look at a corner of a really crazy piece of art, and know exactly what album it was and tell you all kind of, pointless stuff about it. And then when MP3s came out, it was like revelatory when it was like, oh, we can edit the tags. So there's these things called tags on an MP3 where you can put all that stuff that, you used to read off of a piece of, essentially art that was holding the media. So, and now we've had, fast forward years and years and years, we've had the social media applied to it. And then within the social media and within the search engines are artificial intelligences. And I got to tell you guys, I've been very skeptical about the state of artificial intelligence. I think I've said many times that I think they've inflated how intelligent it actually is. And I'm starting to, let my jaw drop a little bit. I spent a little bit of time this week looking at some of the AIs that are out there, and, some of them are pretty staggering. This not, the stuff that some things that they bill as artificial intelligence are pretty simplistic things that just do theme and gist analysis and a little bit of computer learning. But the high end stuff, like the stuff that Musk is probably working on in the background and others, it's pretty crazy what they can do with that. I watched 2 AIs have conversations with each other. And one of the most interesting things I was looking at recently was you could describe anything and the AI would render an image based on your description. I think I don't have the link to hand, but there's an actual software package you can get where you could say like something like, draw an orange toad sitting on a nuclear waste garbage that's turning gay because of the PCBs in the water or something like that. And you know what I mean? You could say something really like weird and complex like that, and it would render an image like that. I mean, they're literally saying that this may kill art. Like this, it's so good. The images are so good and so stunning that you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like we try to make a show image that represents what we talked about on the show sometimes. And it's like, we have to learn digital art and design. We're grabbing 3-4 images, making layers and composites and writing text on them. Just imagine if you could just say, oh, that show was about, A, B, C, and D, and I want it to have this sort of aesthetic. And then boom, out software spits out this amazing piece of art that would have taken a human like days and days and days to make. So there's that going on. And then there's the feedback loops. If you're interested in cybernetic feedback loops and a painfully long painfully long and detailed description of that, check out TruthStream Media's The Minds of Men. I mean, everything you need to know is right there. Just be sure and break it up into like 5 days of viewing if you don't want to get bored and go to sleep. But yeah, Oddman, what do you think about this, man? Ruckus brings up a good point here.
Wow, Ruckus. I mean, I loved it, dude. That was fantastic because I've thought in, the past few years, like how everything has been marketed to us even before the internet and, before computers got really popular and were in everybody's homes and now in everybody's hands. I thought, they knew even way back because like Edward Bernays was talking in, I think 1928 is when the book Propaganda came out. And he had already worked for the, I think it was called the Committee on Public Information to like propagandize the American people into going for World War I. So they knew exactly how to do that through newspapers and radio and flyers. And they even had these like, I think they were called 4-minute men or 7-minute men. I can't remember now. But anyway, it was these guys and they would just go out to places where there were crowds and they would find the opportunity and they would start talking about how America needs to go into the World War I, like make it a kind of like a justify it or whatever. So they've known how to control us for so long, but like I've thought about how, like the music that we like, especially when we're teenagers, the movies that we like, the clothes that we wear, everything is marketed to us from like these big corporations. And Hesher and I like similar music and I think we're like the same age. And so it's like, I used to read the album covers too, man, and see who they thanked and all that stuff. I love that. And like, but like, I think sometimes like I ended up liking that music and there's no question in my mind. I still like the kind of music and most people do like the music they grew up with. But how many of those bands and how much of the music that other people listen to that's our age would have listened to those bands or even liked them or the artists if they hadn't had that marketing. And so it's like, sometimes you have to ask yourself, I've even asked myself in the last few years, do I really like this? Or was this marketed to me? Like I'll go back and listen to a band from that era. Did I really like this at the time? And I have to kind of like really clear my mind and listen to the music and really think about it. I know that sounds crazy in a way, but it's like, it's true because so much, like the propaganda and the psychological part of, kind of like feeding that to us that we like that and we should like it and we can go out and buy that and whatever. And now with the technology, it's just amazing what's like flying at us all the time. So I loved what you were saying, Ruckus. I probably got off track there, but you just kind of blew my mind, man. I can't even think right now.
No, it makes total sense, Oddman. I know what you mean. It's like, and I don't think it's like a this or a that. You know what I mean? It's like we have experienced like I was saying, the growth of this, the evolution of this, the cyberneticization of this. Like we experienced the analog version. Basically, we grew up as analog kids in the ages when propaganda and marketing had been apexed for analog. Like that was it. Like that was the best they were doing. And then they say, oh, well, we can go digital, and now you look back on it and it's like, oh, I can see why it was such a push to go digital. And I think when we get into the fourth industrial revolution here or the Great Reset or whatever, let's hope it's not a dystopian hell, but whatever it does end up being, we're going to look back at this moment and go, oh, now I see why they were pushing so hard for, A, B, C, and D, which, they've told us what A, B, C, and D are. I'll see if I can rattle them off by memory. It was artificial intelligence, robotics, the genetics, like, DNA stuff. And, what was the other one? There's 4 or 5. I've talked about them a bunch of times. There's an entire government agency whose deal it is to make sure that we are competitive with China in those departments. Biotechnology, that's the word I was trying to come up with there. So yeah, it's really weird, and it's hard to sort of like pinpoint a time or a shade of like, did I actually like that? Did I not? But it's really, really interesting to do exactly that exercise that you were just talking about, which is now with your, 40 something year old eyes and ears, looking back or listening back and thinking of, sort of thinking about reframing it. Like I think about that a lot with one of my particular cultural subgenres that I really liked, which was the psychedelic subgenre, or whatever, sort of new agey psychedelic classic rock. I went to Humboldt State, that was part of my jam, like being involved in that. And I still look back on that fondly, but I have so much more context now, and I look back to some of the talking points that were wrapped up in that, packaged in that, and I look at some of the relationships between some of the people that were involved in that, and NGOs and government agencies and three-letter agencies, and it's like, oh wait, that isn't exactly what I thought it was. Like I took some positive things from it, but I also took in a lot of I don't know, a lot of toxicity or a lot of mainstream narrative, or like stuff that was about to be mainstream narrative, packaged a little bit differently. So it's a strange thing to look back on.
It is, man. And I just want to say quickly, like one thing in particular, maybe people will get mad at me for saying this. I think Kevin Smith movies suck, but I'm not sure.
Oh, they're
so
terrible.
I'm gonna have to think about it. Yeah, I think it's like,
and I was one of his biggest fans, man. Like go ahead. But when Chasing Amy came out was the first time I was like, wait a minute, do I actually like this? Well, Jay and Silent Bob are here. It's fine.
Right. And like I tried to watch Chasing Amy like a couple of years ago, and I was like, this movie is absolutely horrible. So it's like, that's just one example, man. It's just kind of funny when you look back at that stuff with a clear mind. And I don't think most people do. They just kind of like, because it's nostalgic for them. And there's things that are nostalgic for me that I'm always going to like. But, it's just sometimes you can see with clarity, and it's kind of interesting to see how you were marketed too.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand. Infidel, was that you trying to jump in there? What do you think about all this, man?
Well, I've been in the field of, I'd say, artificial intelligence and machine learning since late 90s, when I was doing some neural networks back then, and some of the SVN, support vector machines. And, it's really interesting because back then, the amount of data that was available, it was always like very specific to, certain problems. So it was always limited data. And I think the biggest thing that happened in the 2000s and I think the second half of the 2010 and beyond was really the exponential availability of data. What I saw was really big jump. I think I agree with you, Asher. They hyped up, actually they prostituted AI quite a bit in the beginning. And they hyped it up quite a bit, and it under-delivered. With the creation of deep learning networks and really, like, what it did is it removed a lot of the art that they used to do back then, or people that's in that field of like looking at features and conditioning features, right? So now you have those like layers that you can feed raw data to some of those networks. If we look something like convolutional neural networks, for example, right? That you can feed to it some raw data, and it on its own, like using some of those convolutional layers, it starts decomposing features, and you don't even know how it works. and then it generates outputs, which sometimes cause some unpredictable behavior. But at the same time, with this crazy availability of data, it allowed for this massive progress in that field. So that's one side of that, which is more on the classification side, I would say, and detection side. And then you have a whole different category, which is the generative adversarial networks, or what they call, it's called GAN, which is another name for it. Common name for it is deepfake, which are a type of networks that are actually used to be able to generate. So you train those networks with some data, and then the network is able to generate completely new data set. That's just a combination of those data, and you cannot differentiate the output of this network or say that this is a fake or recreated network. So it's really it's pretty incredible. I'm actually using it right now quite a bit and some of the medical applications, but it's what it did. It's right now it's used in art. There's actually networks where it takes gets trained on different composers and music, and generate some really beautiful pieces that you can't even tell it was generated by artificial intelligence, actually.
Yep.
Same with videos, and what this did, it's really now made you start questioning what is fake and what is real, right? Especially in an age where people look at video, and a video can be used as a narrative, or a picture can be used as narrative, can be used to create a war, can be used to destroy people, can be used to create whatever they want to create. So this is not supposed to be used in such an evil way, but it's a tendency of humans, right? That we always take the advancement and what can be used for good, and there are always people that will use it for bad. I'm a big believer in technology, robotics, automation, and I think it's eventually this is where we're heading, and I think no one can stop really human progress in this area. However, how we want to use it, and what is our choice as a species and as humans moving forward, how to use this advancement, whether we want to use it to in the good and to advance, or let's say augment us as humans, or want to replace it as a lot of what we do and just turned into this lazy sloth with just no ability to think, right? And then let's say once a disconnect happen or reset happen, we as humans have lost everything because there is no knowledge anymore, right? It's all this knowledge is maintained into this digital form, and all this creation is maintained into this digital form, which is it is really one of the dangers of this, right? Is with everything being digitalized, or everything going into that robotic side, is how are we as humans shaping this next iteration, right, of our human advancement. I don't think that the fourth industrial revolution is bad. Again, it's inevitable to happen, as I mentioned, and we need to be in the forefront of technology and use this technology in the good of humans. However, there are those that are in power, and those people with agendas that would try to use those to advance their agendas and suppress really a lot of human creativity and keep you locked in somewhere so that they can make more money off you, right? And we saw this happening in things like the metaverse, right, where people are living in a virtual worlds now, and you'll just be sitting at home and and just on your computer all day long, and unable to diseased, but hey, you're running in the metaverse, right? You're wearing your virtual reality glasses and you're doing your exercise, right? You think you're doing your exercise, but you are decomposing as a biological being, and whether you're going to merge later into with a machine that's going to take over that decomposing part or not, that's another scenario that we don't know, we want to get into right now, but the idea here is, as we move toward those advancements and we start losing creativity, and lose some of the things that actually got us to create those technologies early on, this is my question, is how are we moving forward? We got where we are right now because of creativity and because of certain education and building this human intellect and freedom that really is a big part of why we innovate. And there is a reason why the West, I'm going to get to a tangent, there is a reason why the West has led the world in advancement, right? Compared to other nations, just copycat like China, right? It's because of the liberty. It's because of when you are free to make your decision. Now you're free to create. Now you're free to think. Now you're free to come up with new solutions. Whereas in living in an oppressive society or living in an oppressive reality around you, you are not able to create, and you're just going to turn into a consumer. And the decision that we have to make as humans is, if we are moving in this direction, how are we going to keep our advantage? How are we going to educate our kids so that we, with those technologies that we have and this advancements we have, those kids will get the chance to still learn how to generate, how to create actual real music. We know how music actually, and even playing music, affect brains and help the brain development, right? So, there's a big dialogue there that I don't think we as a species ever sat down and actually got into a debate how we want to move forward. And instead, there is certain individuals that are using what we're creating right now to make big decisions and dictating the directions we're moving in. And I think we need to have a say in that. I think people need to have a say into saying, this is not bad, but we need to make a decision of how we want to use it. We need to make a decision of how we want to maintain our creativity, how we want to maintain what makes us human from the very beginning, and that spirit of humans and creativity in humans. So, that's all. I know I went at a tangent, but it's a big topic that I just, with someone being in this field and being in the upfront in the technology field, I live it, but I also see where can we go bad, and how we really need to think and moving forward. So.
Right. Well, I agree with you, man, and that's my main problem with the fourth industrial revolution. It's not that it's inevitable. It's not that there aren't going to be benefits to the amazing jumps that we're going to see in computer and technology, algorithms, all that stuff. Like, that could all be harnessed for the good of mankind. It really could. But the same thing was said. Let me go back. I'll take you back to when I was going to Humboldt State. When I was going to Humboldt State, I wanted nothing more than to be a computer nerd and learn how to make 3D animation so that I could make something or be involved in the creation of something like a movie called The Lawnmower Man, which really grabbed my attention when I was a teenager. If you haven't seen that, it's based on a Stephen King short story, I believe. But you could go back and give that a watch if that intrigues you. But it was like the first movie I ever saw that was actually about the concept of artificial intelligence and virtual reality. And I thought that was so intriguing. And when I went to college, after my first, I was like very in my head in my first couple of years, and I was doing computer classes, but I was also doing philosophy, world religion, earth sciences. Like I was really embracing the whole, first couple of years of college before you're really invested in, a certain path. And there, I hit a point, man, and this probably happens to a lot of people at Humboldt State, you know what I'm saying? But I hit a point where it was like, I don't want to be involved in the computer stuff because I can, I've looked at it so long, I can see where it's headed, and I can see how awesome it would be if the Fortune 100 was not in charge of it. And if these people that had all came to power through the use of Bernaysian techniques and tactics and procedures were in charge of it. And now it's like, well, look where they've got us. Look where they've got us. Like Ruckus got us started on here. They've got us in these cybernetic feedback loops that we don't even understand. They've got us in this lifelong evolution of being exposed to narratives and propaganda. And the same people are now telling us that we don't really need to be involved in the discussion of how we can take the concepts of a fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, and the other things, because they're all things that we're not going to get rid of. And they're all things that we could benefit from if we were all part of the discussion. But it's like, we're not part of the discussion. It takes people like us to have the discussion. And then, Elon, you're going to call me? You're going to tweet me back? We're having the discussion here. I've heard your end of the discussion. You say we should just accept brain chips and electric cars and everything will be fixed. Your wife, as Oddman and Mindspace pointed out on the Sole Purpose podcast recently, thinks that we should look towards technocracy as a form of utopia, and it doesn't need to be that way. Like Infidel said, we could really, really do some great things with humanity. We could have done some really great things, humanity, if we would have spent the last, I guess, when did the iPhone come out? Was that like 2004 or 5? If we would have spent those last years with us being involved in the conversation and where this goes and why it's going there, maybe we wouldn't be having Supreme Court justices that don't know what a woman is. Okay, maybe we wouldn't be in this relativist hell that we live in right now. So what Infidel said, I think, is very important, everybody. And that's coming from someone that works with this stuff, like he said. And I worked with this stuff too back. I worked with Oracle technology, and the idea of big data is exactly what he's talking about. Big data came along. The 3 V's of big data. I'm going to read you these right off the Oracle site. My research team, we used to pay Oracle upwards of $200,000 a year for their services, and they were building this stuff while we were doing it. We were dumping data into their databases all the time. This is Larry Ellison's company, unless he's handed it to someone else. Volume, velocity, and variety. And they've added 2 more V's, value and veracity. And that big data has become capital now. Think of some of the world's biggest tech companies. A large part of the value they offer comes from their data, which they're constantly analyzing to produce more efficiency and develop new products. And there are always breakthroughs going on here. And yeah, Infidel is not kidding. I will link a video on this show page that you folks can watch, and you can see some of the art that is created by artificial intelligence. You can see these deep fakes. They'll put a picture of 2 people up next to each other, one a real person, one a computer generated, artificial intelligence generated person that was done by a complex neural network that can learn. And you'll see it's just crazy where this is going. It is absolutely nuts where this is all going. Go ahead.
No, I just want to, let's take some examples, right? Let's take an example like Twitter. Um, and the social media when it first came out, like Facebook or Twitter, right? And the potential of those platforms and the data that was on those platforms and be people and YouTube even, right? When that concept of YouTube or streaming or podcast came out, right? And the potentials of it. Now we have all this information and that free flow of data and information between humans. It really created something that is just, I don't think we ever seen that before in our as a species. But see where they went. They took it. They got scared, right? Because what happened is once everybody gets involved, once they lose control of the narrative, once they you start seeing the truth, once you start being part of the discussion, it scares them. And the reason is you want to be able to control this. It's and I don't think we should let this go. I think open source and free flow of information, that should be the forefront of anything moving forward. We should not, it's okay to make money, for companies to make money, but it's not okay for it to all to be in the hand of few individuals that control the flow of information. I think we now as humans, once we tasted what this means, to be free, we should not let this go back, because this is what the fight is right now, right? Is they're trying to take this back. That's why they are all freaking out about even just the concept of Musk taking Twitter. I mean, we don't even know what he's going to do with it, but just the thought that someone can break the control that those certain individuals are trying to do on the narrative and the flow of information is just freaking everybody out, right? Because it's going to change politics. It's going to change how people make decisions. It's going to change so many things. And we cannot allow this to happen. But we should not let them take this back, And this is why those new platforms that comes out now and using some of those technologies like blockchain and going to open source and decentralizing a lot of this information is really critical moving forward. And I think we felt this ourselves too, right? Is how we got censored. Hashar, you yourself been into the forefront of the pain of this. I was just reading. There's another podcaster, I forgot his name, that basically PayPal closed their account and they confiscated their money, right?
Yep.
So that's what they will keep doing.
There was a number of them. They did a whole new sweep of that. They got yeah, they got people that we've had on Sunday Wire before, Mint Press was removed, and was it Adam Gray, maybe? I can't remember. I have it somewhere, but I mean,
consortium or consortium. I'm not sure how you said that, but
yeah, consortium. Yes, this
consortium
is
got pulled that same day. Yep.
Yeah. So it's that control they're not going to let it go, but it's a fight right now, and we cannot lose that fight. Also, for us to have the balance that we need, is we need that natural connection with the universe around us as human beings. We need to be able to disconnect from the digital flow of information that's in front of our eyes all the time. Because again, this can be a creativity killer. This is why there are studies right now that shows when kids are all what they got taught on are just tablets and computers and don't actually read from regular books, they're actually they lose some of that critical thinking aspect. So we should not lose the basis of why we got here. We should be able to disconnect We should connect to the universe around us. We should enjoy it all, and we should keep fighting those fuckers.
Yeah, man. So, all right, Mindspace. Why don't do you want to weigh in? We've covered a lot of ground here, man. I'll throw it over to you.
Yes. I entreat people to go and check out the talk that Oddman and I did on the sole purpose just recently. We kind of talked about Grimes and Elon Musk and our tech overlords. And we really have to think about the ethical standpoint of those who are in a formidable place when it comes to distribution of technology and its uses and promotion and the direction in which it's headed. And that's the fact of the matter is that from the ethical standpoint is really divorced from the technological trajectory. And it's you could see easily how it would turn into a survival of the fittest type of scenario. And obviously, you know, Stanley Kubrick talked about this in Space Odyssey. That's the whole point of like the chimps with the bone, and then it turns into a spaceship, right? Because the idea is that, you know, we're still apes or whatever, and it's just going to be people pigpiling, trying to, you know, be the strongest chimp in the herd, so to speak. And this is, you know, so if there's no ethical restraint to a technocratic system, we're going to lose. That's basically it, because the weaponry that can be applied here is astounding. And it's already that you can see it with the Canadian truckers and so on. That's only part of it. That's only part of it. That's only the applied you know, that's sort of just, you know, data gathering and targeting people on the basis of things like their bank accounts, you know, stripping them of those things. But we haven't even talked about the fact that applied psychology is married to the use of these these emerging technologies. Okay, so from the ethical standpoint of somebody who is a pure technocrat and just wants social control, you could see how applied psychology is really the one of the handiest tools that they have. So we got to understand human beings are one of the most in-depth studied organisms on the face of the planet. There is nothing that is not known about human psychology. Now, us in the general public, we are ignorant. We don't know practical realities about human psychology. So we got to understand that there's many, you know, and it's all about nudging, and the algorithms are getting more aggressive as they clamp down on the attempt to control things. But that means, you know, we got to ascend past that and become sophisticated enough with the technology that we actually can, you know, be a formidable contrast to the dark use for technology. And as somebody who, you know, uses the tools at my disposal, does video editing, works with footage and videography, cinematography, and auditory things, which are all part of the spear tip that is moving and catalyzing cultural change in our current moment, you know, I try to be in a position of marrying that ethical standpoint to the skills, to actually, you know, developing and having this competence. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the only person who's doing that, but I think we have a rarer combination when it comes to those things. And that's a troubling thing, because if people are out there and they're going to develop technologies, they're going to implement them, and they're not going to have an ethical framework, they're going to line their pockets with money, and they're going to be incentivized on that standpoint, then there's no limit to what you can get people to do. And that's sort of what Andrew Ryan represents in Bioshock, isn't it? To some extent. I mean, I think he represents a lot of things, but among them is this idea that without an ethical or moral constraint, you know, the nudging and moving things just purely for the will of the individual at the top will not end. And who's at the top? We don't know their standpoint. well, actually, we do. We see that there is, sorcery behind this, if you will. And I just refer to the talk that I did with the PsyOps Cinema gentleman. If you want to get more into, the the destructive way in which film and cinematography and all that has been used as a weapon against the public. But not to be too long-winded, just to, kind of nudge in there and throw my 2 cents into the bin. I think that these are ongoing conversations that we need to have. And, we can't, like Infidel is saying, we can't give up the fight now. I mean, this has really, it's on. It's on. And you know what it's on for is the soul of humanity.
There you go. That's right. That's MindSpaceArt of Soul Purpose right there. And everybody, check out. Here's a couple articles for you to Google, or whatever. I wouldn't normally say Google, but I'm looking at the title of this, and it starts with the word Google. Google and Oracle to monitor Americans who get warp speeds jabs for up to 2 years. Here's another one. Operation Warp Speed is using a CIA-linked contractor to keep jab contracts secret. Here's another one. Palantir's Tiberius Race and the Public Health Panopticon. Check that out. That one's very interesting. But yeah, so I just want to encourage people to check those out. But Oddman, what do you think about that, man? I mean, what Infidel's talking about here, what he's suggesting is not a small feat. It's a bit of a David and Goliath situation, if you will.
Yeah, because unfortunately, there's so much power in technology that I think that a lot of these guys, especially if they're already naturally inclined to the more authoritarian, or they have that mentality of, I know what's best because I am much more intelligent than the average person. And then, you put groups together that think that way. And then they start pretty soon thinking they should make the decisions for, thousands and thousands of people. And then you put technology into that. And that, it's a recipe for some bad things happening, unfortunately. And it's like Infidel was saying, that the everything is there to make it where it could be a great thing for humanity, a wonderful thing. But then you have the other side too. And I'll just mention, I think we were talking about this last night, but I'm reading this Technocracy book by Patrick Wood, and he mentions this guy, Joshua Haldeman, in the book. But in the book, I don't think he'd found out at that point that is Elon Musk's grandfather. This guy was in the group Technocracy Inc., and they were in the United States and Canada. And they were in the 30s. Their whole plan was to take over governments through technocracy. They were scientists and very intellectual guys. And they had a real plan, and they wrote books about it. And they had a school that they taught people, about their way of life, and they hoped that this would be the future and whatnot. And so it's just kind of weird that he ended up being, Elon Musk's grandfather. And it's hard to imagine that Elon really has our best interests in mind. I hope he does, but this technocracy thing's not really a new thing, although, we think of it as a new thing. It's been around for a long time, though the technology has advanced so much since they started this. And in the book, he even talks about how they, the Nazis, and I don't want to bring up that, use the Nazis as a crutch or, a big excuse, but the Nazis liked what they were doing. They liked their mentality, and the Nazis were very technology oriented. They were very advanced for the time. So they got with those guys and started their own Technocracy Inc. version in Germany. So I think this is unfortunately, like, people in charge, they've always seen technology as a way to control people. And I'm sure there's always been good people and bad people on that side. And so I think it's just up to the good people to try and, pull this thing back in and remember the humanity and remember we're all humans, and that technology doesn't care about humanity. It doesn't care about the soul. It doesn't care about those things. So it needs to be looked over and kind of held back at all times by people who do have souls and are human. So that's kind of my thinking on that.
Right. Like, do we really have to just dive into one of these? I mean, look what, especially like if you look at countries that didn't have uh, the computer and the laptop age available for everybody. You know what I mean? Like places like India, Africa, whatnot. It took a lot longer for, by the time computing ubiquity, if you will, landed in places like that, the smartphone had already been created. You know what I mean? It's like there are places where an entire, like a couple generations, several generations of IT flip flop and development R&D just didn't even hit them. Like boom, all of a sudden they have this device and the whole internet's there, and the cybernetic feedback loops are enabled already. Because it's 2006, 7, 8, 9, whatever, 10. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. That's when it all started. Once the iPhone hit and the Android hit, that was when things really started to accelerate. So these paradigm shifts are something I've talked about like deeply with Randy J in the past. Like just how unimaginable a paradigm shift is until you're on the other side of it. Like you really can't understand a real paradigm shift until you're looking back. And the young people aren't young enough to look back and know what a different paradigm that was, what a different context we all lived in. And before you hit that paradigm shift, like you guys are all kind of getting at here, there's something, there's like this augmentation to this, like apex augmentations to where you're at right now before the paradigm shift. But then the paradigm shift happens and then boom, you're back into this warp speed development thing, and there's all this dissonance between the old paradigm and the new paradigm. It's very interesting. I want to hear from Ruckus on this one, man. Ruckus, over to you.
Do you remember, it wasn't that long ago, how did we get internet? You had to plug your computer into your telephone jack, right? Okay.
Yes.
I saw this ad, I don't know, it was a few years ago. I think they still do this thing where it was advertising to change your modem into a phone by plugging your phone into your computer line. And I'm like, this is literally backwards from how it was. And I thought that was very odd. And then until I saw a commercial for these fancy free and clear get television for free television. Did you know you could get free and like, no lie, full on 30-minute infomercials. You know what they're selling, folks? It's an effing TV antenna. I don't know how old the listeners are out there, but like when we grew up, that's where TV came from. The air, it just hit the, it's just, we didn't understand when we were kids. Like, we don't know how it works. It just works, right? And but you had this antenna and like the rabbit ears or whatever, you put them on top and you have to go mess with them because it gets staticky. That's what they were selling. They're selling new versions of antennas so you can get free TV and cut the cable. And I'm like, wow, this is absolutely asinine, crazy, backwards, clown world. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this. And of course, let's not forget that now we get all three of those things. Technically, it's the big companies, the big Comcast and the cable companies. You get all three bundled together and save. No, you don't save. You know what I mean? I remember back in the day, the phone, it was plugged in the wall and you could make a call. And I think it was, for the longest time, it was basically just free to make basic calls. You would have to pay for like a long distance call, and that was about it. But and when's the last time anybody saw a payphone? But it's astounding what you said about a place that can go so long without being caught up with technology, and then bam, just have smartphones and internet from their satellites, the Starlink from Elon Musk. Can you imagine what it would be like without that gradual step up that we've all experienced? Instead, I mean, I think you said, or what I'm understanding, or I think I've heard in other instances, that a lot of these places, they never had computers, never had internet, and that's all they had. They jumped from nothing to smartphones with internet, wireless, and all that pizzazz, and TikTok dancers in your face, whatever. Pornhub, I'm sure too, right? Wonderful.
Yeah. On
And
the
of course,
wide scale, you know what I mean? Like every day, man and woman and child like have access to, they didn't have a freaking Apple laptop like when I had an Apple laptop, they didn't have, I had my PC in 1995 or 6, I don't know, and had used a 480 in high school in 93,
and I'm sure it's got all the mainstream news apps, except CNN Plus, of course. Wah, 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 wah. All right. So yeah, I don't know. It's wild times, folks. I'm reminded of occasionally I bring up the Bible, but sometimes the things in there just blow my mind how pertinent it is. It's like something about like beware calling sweet sour and sour sweet, whatever. Like I think it was something to do with the end times, that there's going to come a time where the whole world is going to be flipped upside down, where like they're going to be convinced that sweet is sour and sour is sweet. I just wish I knew the exact Bible verse or whatnot. The other thing that's crazy to me is a lot of these topics that we're discussing here, especially that you're bringing up, Hesher, are kind of crossing over into the topic that I've been researching and working on for my I'm working on a 3-part series, folks, for the Daily Ruckus. So sorry it hasn't been coming out very quickly, which is ironic because we've been talking about is it's not only is all of this stuff absolutely frightening and ever present, it's coming and happening at a much faster pace than we realize. Like serious.
Yeah, it really is. It's just amazing. All right. Anyone else want to jump in? Because I have sort of a tangential topic here. Anyone's welcome to jump in, or I will throw another hot potato your way. Going once, going twice. Hot potato inbound. Well, actually, before I throw the hot potato in, here's just a little cherry on top here. I'm going to here's another one. Is this the right one? Yeah. Okay. Let me read you this really quick. This is published over at Unlimited Hangouts, Whitney Webb. It was this came out in 2020, and we talked about it a lot when it came out. But what I'm about to segue to is along these lines, and what we're talking about is along these lines. What Infidel brought up. We shouldn't have to fear a 4th industrial revolution. We shouldn't have to fear robotics and AI. Well, maybe, I don't know. There may be an inherent thing there. Watch Battlestar Galactica. Get really nerdy about that. But anyway, let's just say we shouldn't have to fear these things, right? Even biotechnology. If these things were done honestly and transparently, we wouldn't have to fear them. But this is the problem. This illustrates a little bit of context on the problem here. I'm going to take you back to 2018. Remember, this was written in 2020. Here we go. Last year, a government commission called for the U.S. to adopt an AI-driven mass surveillance system far beyond that used in any other country in order to ensure American hegemony in artificial intelligence. Now, many of the obstacles they had cited as preventing its implementation are rapidly being removed under the guise of combating viruses. Last year, a U.S. government body dedicated to examining how artificial intelligence can address the national security and defense needs of the United States discussed in detail the structural changes that the American economy and society must undergo in order to ensure a technological advantage over China. According to a recent document acquired through a FOIA request. It's linked here. If you want to check out its veracity, it's right there. This document suggests that the United States followed China's lead and even surpassed them in many aspects related to artificial intelligence-driven technologies, particularly their use of mass surveillance. This perspective clearly clashes with the public rhetoric of prominent U.S. government officials and politicians on China who have labeled the Chinese government's technology investments and export of its surveillance systems and other technologies as a major threat to Americans' way of life. In addition, many of these steps for the implementation of such program in the United States, as laid out in this newly available document, are currently being promoted and implemented as part of the government's response to that current virus that was going on right then. This is likely due to the fact that many members of the same body have considerable overlap with the task forces and advisors currently guiding the government's plans to reopen the economy and efforts to use technology to respond to the current crisis. So here's where it gets really weird. The FOIA document obtained by the Electronic Privacy Information Center was produced by a little-known U.S. government organization called the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. That's the NSCAI. It was created by the 2018 National Defense Authorization Act, and its official purpose is to consider the methods and means necessary to advance the development of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and associated technologies to comprehensively address the national security and defense needs of the United States. The NSCAI is a key part of the government's response to what is often referred to as the coming fourth industrial revolution, which has been described as a revolution characterized by a discontinuous technological development in areas like artificial intelligence, big data, fifth generation telecommunications networking, nanotechnology, biotechnology, robotics, the Internet of Things, and quantum computing. However, their main focus is ensuring that the United States maintain a technological advantage in AI, machine learning, those things I just read, that whole list there. And the vice chair is Robert Work, former Deputy Secretary of Defense and senior fellow at the Center for a New American Security, CNAS. And the other list of people that are on this board are quite concerning when you look into it. So that I read that to you to sort of illustrate just how bad the situation is that Infidel Pharaoh is warning us about, like how big that fight is between companies like Palantir running softwares like Tiberius and some of the other ones that they use, and they are absolutely linked with the CIA, the national security state, and the Fortune 100 have their own version of this software too. They have access to the big data that Oracle and others are, and Facebook, all the technocrats have their in their databases. Like, that's all there for these people to use. And if we think these people are going to be upfront with us about, how we're going to do this, they created this big group, to do that in the United States. They didn't tell us about it. That wasn't in the news. They were busy lying to us about Russiagate or something while that was going on. So I'll just put that out there as a bit of context, and I'll link that on the show page so people can check it out. But what we've got now, you guys, is a new Biden, this Biden Ministry of Truth BS, this Disinformation Governance Board. Now, this is a big problem. It's a big problem because we've now got DHS is a law enforcement agency. So we've now got a law enforcement agency that is tasked with disinformation governance. That's a little bit freaky right there. Let me, I have a clip for you guys I want to play in this regard. This is Alejandro Mayorkas, and he is DHS secretary. Hopefully this will play. No, it's not going to play because I have the tab muted. Let me unmute that. All right, there you go.
Established Mis- and Disinformation Governance Board in the Department of Homeland Security to more effectively combat this threat, not only to election security, but to our homeland security.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So we got that clip, and so he's out there announcing to Congress in that that they're setting this thing up, and my goodness, Tucker will come on and be like, "Oh, this is Joe Biden's thing. This is Joe Biden's thing." No, that guy is out there in front of the Congress saying that they're going to do this. They're going to have a law enforcement agency that does disinformation governance with no freaking hint at who defines what disinformation is. What does that mean? I find that very troubling, my friends. Anybody want to weigh in on that?
To channel some Alan Moore, whom we've been talking about recently, who governs the Disinformation Governance Board, right? I mean, this is the infinite regress here cannot be understated. Like, just on that point alone, fallible human beings, I mean, they could have their own bias. Probably that's the direction that it's going to go. They're going to just use this as a weapon. Think the Death Star, okay? They're about to blow up Endor here. Endor is where all the good people are at. Across the web, alternative media voices who are just speaking out in the wilderness saying, hey, all this stuff is effed up. We got to abort mission on some of the trajectories in which we're going in this world currently. So we know that this is just some ghoulish thing that's been launched out there, but at the same time, they have been getting a lot of flack for it, and it's also showing their hand more clearly. So I feel like everything right now is really just, it's all out in the open. It's no longer a secret. We know that they're lying. They know we know they're lying. They know we know they're lying. But they're still lying, right? I mean, that's how it goes. So, I mean, they're going to go full throttle with this stuff. And, the salvation's not going to come from the state. It's not going to come from these people touting, categorizing people, right? I mean, categorizing. Okay, you're disinfo, you're not. Sifting. We're sifting through the population. Well, we know where that goes. There's other industries where sifting goes on, namely in the meat packing industry, right? You go in this cart, you go in that pen, and they all end up in the meat grinder eventually. So I don't know about y'all, but I ain't becoming no hamburger. Okay. So I'm going to be fighting tooth and nail until my last breath to help inform my fellow countrymen and those around the world who have common sense in their heads that we're not going to follow that trajectory. Okay. We're going to raise our condition to a higher purpose and live in accordance with that, because that's the will of God, creation, the great Yeti. I mean, I don't care what you call it. It's not Joe Biden. It's not, let's not go, Brand. We're not going down the trek of Brandonizing this world. So we got to, take the off ramp here. Hopefully we don't get caught at a toll. But, we have to do our best.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Infidel, we don't need a mis and dis and malinformation governance board that is in some strange law enforcement agency that arguably this country did not need and does not need and is being used to abuse its own citizens, arguably, right? We already had slander laws. We already had libel laws. We already have FCC regulations and things that disallow people from making dangerous comments or inciting violence. All these things are pretty much covered through currently in use statutes and penal codes. Am I right? Like, what? I don't mean to just like say a bunch of rant and ask you to back me up there, but it just seems to me that this is something that it's like, I think about what Mindspace just said. It's almost like they're trolling us. It's like they're trolling. And then Fox kind of jumps in on it too, and they say all the right things, but they try to make it seem like it's only the left that's doing this to us when it's not. It's the whole system.
It is a whole system, and Fox is part of that system. They're just serving the same puppet master. But I mean, we all remember in 2012 when Obama signed that like order. I think it was HR 4310 or whatever it is. Basically, which allowed that, which he basically like repealed the 1948 Act, right, which banned the use of domestic propaganda against Americans. And since then, our biggest source of disinformation and propaganda was our own government. So I don't know how they can be the one, and they have been the biggest source of disinformation for us as citizens of this nation. And they created this. They removed the constraints that they can start feeding us disinformation. Hey, I posted that clip. If you just have a second, our beloved Nina Jankowicz.
I got it. Is this the karaoke?
Oh yeah, the TikTok video.
I got it. I got that, man. I do. Yeah. It's amazing, right? Like that. I'm glad you've been following this story. That aspect is another part that makes me feel like we're being trolled. Like
So
this is just like Mindspace said. They know that we know that they know that we know, like all the way down to every little social media manager, every campaign manager, like the whole freaking thing just knows this is a joke. This is meant to trigger you. We know this is illegal and we don't care.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This is why they picked like a joker, like one of the most like decisive figures, was already proven history out there, out in the web of disinformation, as the director of this new board that they put. So it's a big trolling. But I don't know what are they trying to get out of it. What they're trying to get out of it is just they want to put their hand in every company. They want to put their hand in platforms, and you just want to be able to control you more. How far they get with it? Is it going to go to someone is going to like take that to the court and then challenge it for its constitutionality and that it's direct violation of the First Amendment, which it absolutely is. So instead of the Supreme Court going for Roe versus Wade, I would love them to go after really what's fucking important for this nation, which is the loss of our freedom and it's a loss of our liberty, and that they've been completely silent about. So how about we leave the decisive shit that's not going to get us anywhere and actually focus on what's important for us, right? Yeah. But you can see how it's all connected though, because this leaks that came out, it's perfect timing for distraction, right? To get everybody riled up about something completely different. So you cannot look at those things in a disconnected manner. I think would be pretty simplistic if you don't connect the dots, how obvious it is. So I think we gotta just look deeper. But if you have a second, just play that like Joker. Like
I will talk about a clown woman. This is a clown woman, more of a clown woman than anyone in the squad. 33-year-old Nina Jankowicz, who, by the way, Oddman, did you know this is out of the Wilson Center and as an advisor to Ukraine in the past? Did you catch that aspect of this yet?
I have not looked into her yet, but I knew that she had to be in one of those organizations, and the Wilson Center is like hand in hand with the CFR and the Carnegie and all those. And you actually mentioned the CNAS, the Center for a New American Century, or no, Security. If I'm not mistaken, not only was Newland the director of CNAS, she started it, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure. And I think people like Steve Wozniak is even at that institution. So there you would see the technological side, but I think that's a lot of people who were formerly in different administrations. So it's kind of like, I think, a CFR type of thing. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let me work my way into that clip here, Infidel. I got one more from Mayorkas I want to play first. This again, Alejandro Mayorkas, I think, is the spelling on that, DHS secretary, speaking to Congress here. This is a strange clip. See if I can maybe not train wreck into this one.
We have
There it is. Got that up. And go full screen so you guys can see it. There we go.
so many different efforts underway to equip local communities to identify individuals who very well could be descending into violence by reason of ideologies of hate, false narratives, or other disinformation and misinformation propagated on social media and other platforms.
Disturbing. That is absolutely disturbing. He said, quote, could be descending into violence because of how they think and express themselves online. What is that? Identify and punish people that think or post in the wrong way? You have got to be kidding me. Have you Alejandro Mayorkas, have you even ever been on the internet? May I welcome you to the internet, please? Because you obviously do not know what a slime pit the internet is of wrong think and free think. Actually, according to the values that the partisan values that apparently they're going to try to apply to this new law enforcement agency. And that clip just boils my effing blood right there. If that tickled anyone else in the boiler room, feel free to weigh in before I get to this next barf bag.
I need confirmation on something, by the way, about Nina before you proceed. Is she really 33?
She is indeed.
She is.
Wow, just keep that in mind, folks.
33. I mean, as a law enforcement, I mean, we're talking about a law enforcement agency here, right? This is a joke. This is a clown woman. This is authoritarian karaoke. It's what is this?
Information.
Let me get it on the screen, so you have to be subjected to it as much as I do.
Before we get there, though, I just want to this previous clip is really disturbing because they are shifting the definition of a crime from the act of committing a crime to the act of thinking about the crime. So now it's really thought crime. This is what they are after, right? Is you being a dissident for whatever they're going to label as a thought crime against their narrative, and that's what they're going to punish you for.
Isn't that freaky? I mean, that is bone chilling. I mean, on the one hand, it's like, this feels like trolling. It feels like it can't be real. It feels like this has no teeth. It's completely unconstitutional. How the crap can they do this to Americans? Why would they do this? It's amazing.
I didn't realize I was muted. I see that. I forgot that happens. So yeah, but what about the violence that was already conducted upon the people because of the government policies following the COVID situation, right? Because how many deaths, how many broken families, businesses destroyed, and all that. Does that count as violence, by the way? Well, if there were excesses of the policy that led to suicides, deaths of despair, people becoming economically unviable, does that factor in as being malicious behavior? Is that criminal behavior to have enacted those policies? Do we get to retroactively, go at, persecute those people for what they have done? Are they going to face justice? But you can see that it's really that the sin is upon them. And so they have to take that spotlight and they have to shine it on you, the independent voice, you, the individual thinker, you, the person who actually is trying to shed some real light on the situation, help others to see that the world is not how maybe they have thought that it is, which should be natural, flow of discourse. If you don't have that, then what do we have? We have a failed state. We have an authoritarian state. We have nothing that resembles anything close to a constitutional republic or anything that's resemblant of what the founders had enacted here and the principles upon which they had fought and separated from the oppressors which preceded them. So where are we at? This is the question. What is defining this nation? What is defining our relationship as the citizenry to a government that is increasingly hostile towards us? How are we supposed to proceed forward? And I feel that those who are independent voices, speaking from an angle, taking free speech up as their rights, they are the ones who, of course, are on the right side of history. So it's just a question of how quickly that they're going to raise the stakes. But the alternative media is no doubt by any means making an impact in the public. It's making an impact in the public consciousness. Information is proliferating out there. There's a great circulation of this talk, and that is what is going to invigorate this nation to remain a place where there's actual liberty. I don't want to see this descend into a tyrannical hellhole. None of us on this call want to. Those who are listeners don't want to. That's why it is our duty at this time in history to speak plainly about the circumstances in which we are being forced to contend for our freedoms.
Absolutely, MindSpace. Yeah. Anyone else want to weigh in before I roll into this next?
Yeah, I just want to MindSpace mentioned the crime that was committed in COVID. How about the crime that was committed during the summer of love for all the small businesses and
right?
just
Are those not extreme ideologies that are what was the quote there, that could be descending into violence?
yeah, well, it actually descended into violence.
Right? They proved it.
They did.
They proved it. But wait, there's more, folks. Check this out. This is something that we talked about on the show weeks ago, months ago, probably. There was a DHS.gov bulletin that came out. I will read from it right now. It was titled Summary of Terrorism Threat to U.S. Homeland. Okay. And it reads, the United States remains in a heightened threat environment fueled by several factors, including an online environment filled with false or misleading narratives and conspiracy theories and other forms of, wait for it, dis, and malinformation. MDM. Mike Delta Mike. Introduced and or amplified by foreign and domestic threat actors. These threat actors seek to exacerbate societal friction and sow discord and undermine public trust in government institutions to encourage unrest, which could potentially inspire acts of violence. Mass casualty attacks and other acts of targeted violence conducted by lone offenders and small groups acting in furtherance of ideological beliefs and or personal grievances pose an ongoing threat to the nation. So, folks, they have already defined before the announcement of this DHS Ministry of Truth, they have already defined dis, and malinformation as quote unquote terrorism. I don't understand this. All right. Can someone out there please effing explain to me how sharing information online or discussing information online can be equivalent of being a threat actor seeking to exacerbate societal friction and sow discord to undermine, well, maybe some of us want to undermine public trust in government institutions because they do not deserve our trust. They've proved that over and over again, right? So, I mean, Oddman, this is serious business right here. What we're putting together, you know, we put this bulletin together with the announcement of this Ministry of Truth. There's a number of dots that need to be connected here, and I think that that's one of the first ones, because we have to recall that disinformation has been defined by the DHS as terrorism, right? So, and the executive branch has extraordinary powers to fight you know, quote unquote terrorism, right? So this is not, you know, it may seem stupid and clownish, but at the same time, like, there's something going on here that you know, is not part of the larger discussion, I would say.
Yeah, and you know, you go back to, I think we mentioned it, the repeal of the provisions in the Smith-Mundt Act, where they can feed us disinformation and pure propaganda, and it's totally illegal. But if we have information that goes against their narrative, then they can actually arrest us for terrorism, or that's where it's leading. And it's unbelievable that people are letting this happen. But you know, it's like the boiling frog. You know, these things happen so incrementally, and most people are not even talking about it because they don't even know about these things. So it's like, eventually, when all these things come together, we're not going, you know, unfortunately, the Constitution probably won't protect us because they are figuring out ways to go around the Constitution. And also, they know now that there's enough people who don't care about constitutionality enough to uphold it. So it's really scary times when you think about that, and what they're setting up the future to be like. It's like you can see the writing on the wall. No dissent. If you have anything to say against the official narrative and what probably CNN and Politico and, you know, Washington Post, New York Times, you know, their cadre of official state linked news apparatuses, I think that that's what's going to be deemed disinformation, misinformation, or whatever.
Yep. Yep. And folks, this is why we are spending an inordinate amount of time and energy making sure that we are going to be uncancelable. We don't want to deal with this reality. That's why we're setting up on Podcasting 2.0. You can listen to Boiler Room on the Fountain app. You can interact with us on the Fountain app. You can take clips and recommend chapter highlights on the Fountain app. You can tip. They have a really cool setup over there. I'm getting to know it over there. Photon's getting to know it. That's on Podcasting 2.0. Apple and Google could take us off the index. They could shadow ban us. It doesn't matter. If you follow us, if you listen to us on the Fountain app, you're there. We're moving to element.io in the blockchain. All this is in the blockchain. It's totally distributed. It's uncancelable. We're going to be in Element. We're going to be in Fountain. We're going to be on Rockfin. You know what I mean? Like, we're taking a lot of effort to protect ourselves from this garbage. This is actually absolute garbage. And to put the cherry on top here, I'm going to play this clip. This is 33-year-old, again, Nina Jankowicz out of the Wilson Center, former advisor, or I don't even know, maybe current advisor in Ukraine. This is an utter joke. This is a clown woman manifest right here. And they're going to put this lady in charge of this shadowy group that we're talking about here.
Laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared that intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo, and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh!
My goodness. So every little thing that was noted in that horrible shit stain of a karaoke piece there were partisan issues, right? Everything that she broke down in that god awful thing, I'll never be able to pour enough bleach into my eyes and ears to ever unsee and unhear again, were mainstream partisan narratives from left-wing media. When you've got right-wing media just flapping the other side and not really telling us what's going on here. They are, I'll give Tucker credit. His piece on this was good. But again, it's like always just Biden's fault, Biden's fault, Biden's fault. Get over yourself, man. If you want to come in here into this realm and analyze this stuff, Tucker, you got to go one layer deeper and quit pointing people at Biden as the problem with this. Would it be different under Trump? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe in 2024, they are going to plan to put Trump back in. That would be one of the most amazing swings to like continue the polarization, to further the just utter destitution of people in that follow power politics. Or I don't know. It's just a mess. I don't know. The whole thing is crazy. I cannot believe this clown woman, 33-year-old, has anything to do with DHS or affairs in the Ukraine, and is now apparently a law enforcement official of some sort. And what is her background? Well, she's a self-described, quote, internationally recognized expert on disinformation. Well, how is that? Every example of disinformation in her song was MSM narrative talking points that we have constantly proven are disinformation over and over and over again. So, where does this head? What is this?
She's only an expert in disinformation, not the other two.
Yeah. What about
so she knows
they need to bring in the malinformation expert.
She knows jack off nothing about malinformation or misinformation. We shouldn't even
practically useless.
It's a difference
Come on.
between three guys. Can someone explain to me? I guess I'm not from this country. Can someone explain to me what's the difference between disinformation, malinformation, and misinformation?
Okay, yeah, I'll take a stab at that, man. Actually, I will channel Brett Weinstein here because he's got a great tweet thread about this. So he said, once you've been secretly designated a disinformation terrorist, your rights evaporate, and the executive has unlimited power over you. You don't even have the right to know that the designation has occurred. See the Patriot Act and NDAA 2012, section 1021 to 1022, and that is linked there. And he goes on to say, and your ability to avoid being designated a disinformation terrorist isn't something you can even control by sticking to what you believe are well-established facts. Disinformation is not alone in being terrorism. The DHS defines two other categories. Misinformation. Misinformation is honest errors, and malinformation are things grounded in truth that cause distrust of government, are terrorism too. They have literally built a structure in which if you exercise your right to critique those in power, they gain absolute power over you in secret.
That is exactly what it is.
It's so well said. He goes on to say, I wish I was making it up or was somehow confused, but I'm simply connecting dots as they logically fit together. And it all reflects what ex-NSA agent Bill Binney described as turnkey totalitarian state. A turnkey totalitarian state. When he said it, we were building one. Now the key is being turned.
So if I look at Biden videos and speeches, and I say his corpse with a decaying brain, is which one does it classify as? One of those three.
That would be malinformation, which would be things grounded in truth that cause distrust of the government.
Okay. All right. I just want to know which terrorists are doing stuff.
They won't tell you that, though. They won't let you know.
Oh, they're not going to tell me that? Okay.
Just imagine the lists. Oh my gosh, the big data involved in this. Oh my gosh. So here's a reply that I think is interesting. This is from user Wayukema. Mr. Brett Weinstein, Dutch government communicates identical language to the people. So do German, French, Italian, etc., etc. Perhaps we should produce a comparison, identifying similarities that might reveal the overall directions where this is going globally. And I would probably, that one really stuck out to me, you guys, because I know we've got people listening in Germany, France, and Italy who are probably been thinking this to themselves every time we kind of go down this mass surveillance and thought crime, philosophical road. Like I've heard from some of our German listeners and Swiss listeners, they're like, yeah, I live that. That's what we've been doing that. We do that here. They'll arrest you for tweeting the wrong thing about the LGBT or, whatever the thing, whatever the violation is. I mean, it's amazing.
And remember what we were talking about in the beginning about the guy that got the multiple charges like that, all included in one? Does that happen here too? You're guilty of all three?
Got it. Well, I get, yeah.
Information, disinformation, and malinformation. MDM, that's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because I looked up, I'm like, that sounds like it's got to be something. MDM, it is. So you're going to love this. Mobile device management, which is all involved with that whole other thing we were talking about a little while ago. So it's really interesting.
MDMA is ecstasy.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping you were going for.
Hey, now look at that. So yeah, but I don't know. It's just a ridiculous excuse. These little things that they can just basically disappear people or make their voices go away at least, or threaten them, control them, hold it over their heads like blackmail, whatever they want to do. I don't know.
So seriously though, like what's going to happen there? Like what are we doing? Are Americans just going to sit there and just take it?
Right.
Is someone like challenging this? Is like what's the next step?
Seriously, this guy tweets out something really good in the response thread here. He says, malinformation is perfect news speak, a tacit admission that the information is true, but that the government just doesn't like it.
That doesn't make sense because mal usually means bad.
Right?
The root for bad.
I
don't get it.
I'm not sure that that Mr. Weinstein's definition is the same as mine, because I interpreted that to be disinformation that is known to you, the person saying it, to be disinformation, and that you're saying it dishonestly, you're saying it, you're lying about it, you're propagandizing your social media audience in knowingly, you know what I mean, for whatever reasons. But that's what they do. This is the Orwellian backflip here. That's what they're doing by making these fucking rules.
Yeah, exactly. It's all bullshit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything because they are the ones who are telling us what these words mean. So they could do whatever they want as long as if you're like, okay, fine, I'm going to steer clear of that. I'm going to move over here in a safe spot. They're going to be like, and if you're in, come on, I got to move again. It's a never ending thing. And Infidel, to your point, dude, I'm pretty sure most of us lost all hope with the everyone else around us as good old America when we didn't stand up against the pandemic lockdown bullshit together as a country. We just let it happen. We let everybody get just got steamrolled right into all that, and it like softened the blows for everybody. And now it's like, I stand for the current thing. Please tell us, government daddy, what that thing is so I can change my social media profile frame ASAP. Snap to it. Ain't got time to waste, don't you know?
Need to follow that bouncing ball of the narrative. Throw us the narrative, please. Prostitutes, mass media cartel brainwashers, please throw us the next narrative. Bounce it out in front of us. My goodness. Black pill cannons engaged. Just give me more. Give me more. Put the MSM beer bong right into my third eye. Take it all in. Take it all in. All right. Well, that one really gets my gears grinded here, you guys. The DHS Ministry of Truth is manifest. You saw the hideous hose beast that is its front-facing public face there. This makes no sense. This only makes sense in a clown world, a alternate reality from the one in which we all grew up in. I mean, it's crazy.
One more thing about her. I'm sorry, I can't help. It was kind of catchy. I mean, I kind of liked it. You guys are all hating on it, but I thought it was well done, and I think there's a point to that. I don't believe for a second she just sat there and came up with all of that herself. That was very scripted, staged, choreographed, and anything. If anything, I'm impressed by her singing capability, because a lot of people just can't sing. She wasn't the greatest, but she wasn't bad. You know what I mean?
No, I totally feel you. There is a PR team, a social media manager, the whole kit and caboodle there on that, a political manager, and legal. They got legal on it. And she is law enforcement. What the hell? She's law enforcement. What the hell is that? What the hell? Where are we going?
Is she packing heat?
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Is there is a disinformation, malinformation, misinformation conference out there that we can attend, at least to learn?
Yeah, I would like to know more. I agree. Please tell me more about this. And these DHS, yeah.
How do I qualify to be like a world-renowned disinformation expert?
You already are, man. You're in the boiler room. We are the disinformation experts over here, and a curse of 1,000 fleas into her armpits for trying to steal our gig here, because that's what we do over here. Dang it! And we don't.
We are the disinformation experts.
That's us, man. That is us. Sorry, clown lady there. Sorry, clown woman, Nina Jankowicz. It's not going to work
Doesn't all
out.
of this also imply that somewhere there's just some baseline of just plain old information that should be taken as truth at face value? At what point, again, this leads to another big problem. That's the obvious one, is who gets to decide what information is, what that baseline is, before they can start labeling what goes against that. And that's what the public debate needs to be open. There needs to be multiple sides and opinions about this. And you ask who's going to step in. I think who was asking that? Infidel. I think that's where we see this situation where we see this figure like Elon Musk sliding into that to possibly take that role. And Hesher, were we talking about that on air, or was that off air? I think we had a big conversation about something like this recently. But you brought up a really good point, and you brought it up again about the PR people. These people they're not sitting there on Twitter all day long tweeting, right? They have lives, and they hire people to do that for them. And I think you were going down this rabbit hole that was blowing my mind about the concept that these people are literally playing a role because they have to match their marketing, their branding, their personality, their image. And they have a whole team of people and money that dictates that they maintain to the public in all forms, ways, shape, and including the Johnny Depp stuff, right? Maybe I think we were obviously talking about that recently, but I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling.
Yeah.
It's getting late.
No, you're on to something there. These people, there is a team effort that goes into crafting an aesthetic and a brand and a personality and all that goes with these people. And the younger they are, the better they understand that. That's why they have a 33-year-old propagandist in there in this absurd and immoral and unconstitutional and illegal government agency. And you know, we are skeptical of Elon, I think, as a group here, but credit where credit is due. He is one of the people that is saying the right thing right now on this topic. Here's a headline: Elon Musk slams Biden's discomforting Disinformation Governance Board on Twitter, comparing it to the Nazi regime. GOP demands it's dissolved as its head defends linking Hunter's laptop to Russia. So, you know, Elon's tweet was pretty damn brutal. It was pretty damn brutal. He's gone after this whole topic here. So I don't know what kind of dialectic is being set up here, or if this is organic. We're all on pins and needles to try and figure this out. You know, Mr. Brain Chip, Mr. Electric Car, Mr. My granddad came from the technocrat society, and my dad impregnated his stepdaughter. There's some crazy stuff going on in that family history. Shout out to Tristan Haggard of Primal Edge Health. He just did a live stream last week where he went into the Musk family history, and I think I had heard a lot of those things before, but they kind of just slip away in the memory, and he had them all concatenated into one broadcast there. And there's some pretty, you know, there's room for a lot of doubt there in that family. I don't know if everything is above board there, but yeah, it looks like you know, Elon's not down with it, as far as we can tell from his tweets. I'll link that on the show page so everybody can check it out on their own. I think we lost Oddman out, and we'll probably shut down soon. I'm gonna head over to MindSpaceArt here.
Also, shouts out to the Primal Edge and Base Lit Analyzer Dostoevsky stream.
Oh, I saw that too. Yeah, that was great.
That was amazing. They really covered that piece of literature. Very prophetic book there that was written by that author, who's sort of known as having been, you know, a great philosopher type, and so he's an interesting person. But I just wanted to say that thank you to everybody who showed up for the show tonight, who tuned in. I'm glad we got to get everything off of the ground, and we hit that icebreaker running, and you know, we got time to premiere the Bioshock trailer, so I'm really happy about that. And I also do have that Bioshock trailer posted up at the website without the, you know, watermark form over it, so you guys can check that out. I've dropped that link in the Discord, and hopefully, you know, we can share that around and get some more people to tune in and hopefully be entertained and to find us, you know, yapping in our corner as we are. So it's been a great show here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. That's MindSpaceArt, everybody. Do make sure you're signed up for the feeds and the follows on the Sole Purpose podcast, and check alternatecurrentradio.com often. Follow him at West Lexicon Media on all social medias. There's links to those on the Sole Purpose page at alternatecurrentradio.com. Over to Infidel. Infidel, thanks for hanging with us for an overtime show tonight. Looks like we're about 2.5 hours in, something like that. It was great to have you with us, man. Wonderful show as usual. Shout out to everybody in the YouTube chat there. What's up? Gerchop, I hope you're not just getting here, because we're about to shut down, but don't worry about it. It's all logged for you. And everybody else in the Discord chat, of course. It's great to see everybody. But yeah, Infidel, over to you, man. Thanks for being here tonight, and over to you for Saved Round's final thoughts.
Thanks, sir. Thank you for having me, and great talking to you guys. And I think it was a great show. Thank you guys for listening out there for us on all the platforms, and you know, keep supporting us, and looking forward for the next one.
Absolutely. Me too, man. Me too. That's Infidel Pharaoh, everybody, our resident scientist. Over to Ruckus. There's a Ruckus among us over here in the boiler room always. Ruckus, thanks for being here. Thanks for everything you do. Looking forward to the next daily Ruckus drop, and looking forward to actually watching this episode back. I think this is going to be fun to be a viewer on after being on.
Yeah, it should be cool. It's always interesting seeing yourself on YouTube. You're like, whoa, hold on. I know that guy. Oh.
Yeah.
Too bad it doesn't help me get, you know what. Anyways,
Hey.
thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, about the Daily Ruckus again, folks. Sorry. Usually when life throws me lemons, I'm pretty good about about making lemonade. But lately it stopped throwing me lemons and decided to throw me boulders. So I've been doing my best to throw together this massive 3-part series. It's going to be fun and exciting. I'm mostly done with the first part, but I want to make sure it's just right before I release it. So I may let it go tomorrow night, or I might just push it off till next week for a specific reason, because I want all 3 of them to come out one right after the other in quick succession. No pun intended. But thanks again, folks. Don't forget to check us out on the weekends for the music mixtape stuff that we do over on Mixcloud. So you can find links for that at the website, alternatecurrentradio.com, as well as other cool stuff. So if you haven't been there in a while, it might look a little different, and I hope you all enjoy it. We all worked on it very hard and diligently for quite a while. So it's there for you to go have some fun and play around, and I'll see you out there in the interwebs. May God bless each and every one of you, and may God save this republic.
All right, that's Ruckus, everybody. Wow, yeah, what a great show. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Great to see everybody. Jessica Stanza says, those in power were talking about a regulation bill for cryptocurrency, blockchain, and a creation of a Fed coin. It is bone chilling. That's right. That is right. That stuff is all very freaky. This stuff is all very freaky. This whole trip into the 4th Industrial Revolution is something that we cannot leave to other people or better people or secretive government agencies or oligarchs and technocrats that own all the big data. I guarantee you that is not going to go our way. I mean, maybe it's a boiling frog situation. Maybe they can make that new paradigm somewhat comfortable for those of us that come from the previous paradigm. But I don't know, man. It's not looking good. I think we need to keep an open mind about it and keep our eyes on the prize here. But what we're seeing coming out of the mainstream here, the mass media cartel, these narratives are pure neurolinguistic programming, and we just can't let this continue. I don't know what to do about it. I wish I had the answer for you. All I can do is just keep having open conversations with my people and my audience about what's the information that's already there. That's all we're doing. We're not breaking any stories over here in the boiler room. We're simply looking at what is being fed to us, spoon-fed to us, meta-fed to us. So many levels. Like, we are really, really, we're at a disadvantage, folks. So we got to stick together on this and try to carve out a section of media that is for all of us, a section of media that is not beholden to these insane people. That's all we're hoping for. That's all we're striving for. And that's it, everybody. We're out of here. We'll see you again for another episode of the Boiler Room real soon. Thanks for hanging with us.
That's it. Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.